What's up, Hacksters? Welcome to Wednesday. Ooh, let me not knock over my tea. So we've got this ongoing contest called the AARP Hacking Menopause Contest, and it's awesome. You might not think that you have anything that's applicable to this contest, but you probably do if you do anything with biotechnology, health technology, that kind of stuff. A lot of that stuff is applicable to symptoms of menopause, and you could win big if you submit it within the next 6 days by next Tuesday, May 12th. So what I want to do is share with you a project that I've been building for this contest. I'm not going to submit it, obviously, but I wanted to celebrate it, and it's called the Mind Tiara. So far, this is a PCB that I've designed that pipes blue light into your eyes. And what you're probably thinking is, isn't that bad for your eyes? It can be. You really don't want to put any UV light into your eyes, and there's specific wavelengths that you can use that are effective without being harmful. And we're going to tell you what those are. But first, what it's for is that it helps you adjust your circadian rhythms and boost alertness without the use of any chemicals or other types of interventions. It's just done with light. Isn't that fascinating? So let's take a look. First up, the contest itself, you can find it at hackster.io/contests as usual. It's called Hacking Menopause with AARP Innovation Labs. And they have a ton of cool prizes, which you can find at the bottom of this. There's prizes for devices that solve one symptom, two of the symptoms, or retail-directed one-symptom solutions as well. And there's also runners-up and things. As for what counts for this contest, there's a whole list of 35 symptoms on, I believe it's hackingmenopause.com. Yes, that's right. And there's tons more information about this whole challenge that they're doing. By the year 2025, there will be 1 billion women globally experiencing the symptoms of menopause. This affects anyone who has a uterus. And so it's, a huge, widespread problem. Everyone is going to go through this. And so if you're interested in building products for a guaranteed user base, this is a pretty great opportunity, besides being something that is largely ignored because it's not especially glamorous. But that means that there's a lot of opportunity for you. And while a lot of people know about a few of the symptoms like osteoporosis or hot flashes, there's a ton of other ones that we never even hear about. And a lot of these are actually, they overlap with other health tech applications. So for example, things for sleep disorders, things for irregular heartbeat, things for excessive sweating, for mood swings, for fatigue, difficulties concentrating, and things like that. And my wearable addresses a few of these already. Stuff for hair loss, allergies, all this stuff. Tons of people have allergies. If you are working on something for that, here's a chance to use it for more. So yeah, as I said, this particular device is something that uses a technology that hasn't been talked about a ton, but there's just starting to be a whole crop of companies addressing it, harnessing the power of blue light in your eyes. You might have heard of seasonal affective disorder and how people use light lamps to shine in your face and simulate sunlight, and how this helps with some mood disorders. It can also help with jet lag. It can help you reset your circadian rhythms. And that's because it emulates daylight. It emulates the type of light that you see sort of from a summer sky. And this isn't just speculation. There's tons of scientific backing for this. For example, Luminet, one of the companies building this type of technology, has done a ton of research with a university whose name I've forgotten, because there's a University of Liège. Okay, yeah. And they've got a bunch of information on here. If you don't trust a company-backed study or company-promoted study, you can look at NASA, who's been testing this, all kinds of scientific backing for this. And so, yeah, it simulates exposure to sunlight. And we know that our circadian rhythms are partly triggered by the sun going down. When the light stops coming in from outside, we start producing melatonin. And so shining particular wavelengths of blue light will inhibit that production of melatonin and help promote alertness. And so you can use this technology in the morning to help you wake up and shift your sleep cycle earlier. You can use it in the evening if you want to stay awake and alert later on. It's got all these different applications, and it now is available as a portable, wearable type of device. The thing with this is that you can have a 10,000 lumens giant light sunlight array sort of pointed at your face that uses big incandescent bulbs or whatever, or you can put it right on your face. It takes much less energy. You can use LEDs and you can tailor them to the specific wavelengths that are effective. So let's take a look at those, because there's a couple of really important safety notes when you're building something like this. And what I'm going to be doing today is showing you, is going through the process of modeling an enclosure for this device. But before we get to that, I want to make sure that no one sees this and is like, oh, sweet, and starts like shining whatever blue LEDs they can find in their eyes. I don't want to be responsible for that. So I've gone through. The cool thing about this being a new technology is that all these companies that are building these devices, you've got Retimer, you've got AO, Luminet, ProPeak, and one called Pegasi that came out on Kickstarter a while ago. These companies are having to prove themselves to new markets, and they have to demonstrate amid all this stuff about how don't look at your screens at night, blue light is bad, it's going to damage your retinas and stuff. They have to prove to the market that their products are safe. So they have a ton, and that it's effective. So they have a ton of information up, and you can basically just bogart that. So it stimulates sensory cells called photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. They send those signals to the brain area called the suprachiasmatic nucleus to suppress the production of melatonin, as we talked about, and this helps your internal body clock be optimized according to your lifestyle. There's more information on the Retimer page. All of these are linked from my tutorial, by the way. And I've got a special section at the bottom about safe LEDs and what's effective and what's safe. And how to use it. So this all links to these pages that I'm showing you right now. But Retimer has a light therapy page that's about like which wavelengths to use and how they affect your sleep and things like that. So the LEDs that I'm using are 475 nanometers. That is a longer wavelength than the harmful UV wavelengths. So the ones that damage your eyes are in the UV spectrum, and they go between 286 to 400 nanometers. So mine, they have a higher energy because they have shorter wavelength, higher frequency light, ultraviolet, and like violet blue light. And so by using one that's 475 nanometers, that's well within the effective range and also the safe range. So from the review of optometry, they say that the labeled blue turquoise light range, which is from 4065 to 495 nanometers, is essential to our vision, to the function of our pupillary reflex, and in general to human health. And it helps regulate our circadian sleep-wake cycle. I've got more information here on what each company uses. So they're all around the same set of wavelengths. So my 475 is pretty much right in the middle here. Check out this tutorial. It includes a lot of the information if you have questions about the safety or the effectiveness. That's a great way to start. And this is actually a continuation of an earlier project I made called the Glow Up from about a year and a half ago, a couple of years ago. So I've been working on this for a long time, and it's pretty easy to build if you have access to a Bantam desktop PCB mill. So so far, I've created the PCB, and I've written the tutorial about that. Unfortunately, it's gotten a little bit damaged in transit between the office and here. So I need to... Oh, hey, David Shorey's on. What's up? David Shorey does incredible 3D prints. He was one of the first pioneers who was really getting popularizing the use of 3D printing on fabric, which is a really cool technique. definitely check out David Shorey Designs. Super cool. So anyway, I've got this PCB here, and it's got 2 sets of LEDs that basically go here. And I designed it to be similar to the Wonder Woman tiara, which you can see here. This is the best photo that I could find of the actual screen-used tiara. What's interesting to me is that it almost looks like you can see 3D printing lines here. If you look at the straps going around her brows and stuff, it looks like there's little 3D printed lines, which is surprising. You know, I would think that that would not be the case, but that's what it looks like to me. Actually, you know what? Then they wouldn't be angled along with the piece. So probably it's not 3D printing lines, because if it were, then they'd all be like parallel, and this piece is angled and they follow the angles. So never mind. Anyway, this is what I'll be using as the reference for my enclosure. The thing is that in order to position the lights properly, for safety reasons, you don't want to shine them directly into your eyes. You want to shine them across your field of view. And so 4 of these companies position them as top down. They sort of have a headband and maybe a diffuser and maybe a reflective surface. Anyway, they're guiding this light across your field of view. And then I think it's AO, or is it? I think it's Retimer, actually. Yeah, they direct it from the bottom of your face, of your eyes, upward. And they describe why they do that. Somewhere on their website. There's like 5 different websites I was looking at, and trying to remember which one is where. It's a little bit difficult. I think it's here, though. They talk about the standards they adhere to. Optimal delivery angle. Here we go. Traditionally, older style, there's like 5 years old as far as I've seen. Light visors deliver light from above. Much of the energy from a light visor will be blocked by your eyebrows. This reduces performance. Retimer is different, delivering light from below for maximum performance. I've gone a different direction. I've directed the light outward from the inside. And what that does is it makes it look a little bit weirder, but I think really cool. And yeah, David. So that means that you aren't being blocked by your eyebrows. And it's actually really comfortable. You don't even see those LEDs in the periphery, but you can see that they're hitting my eyes. But at the same time, I noticed when I wore my previous version, which did direct light up from above, the problem was that if I wanted to do something like read or cook or do anything with my hands, really, I'd be looking down. And so you'd be staring basically right at those LEDs. And that wasn't very comfortable, which is why I mounted them this way. The other thing design-wise is that her tiara, of course, is up on her forehead. And I designed this to be in that same shape. But in order to get the light to shine onto my eyes, I had to make it rather lower. So this isn't going to be exactly the same as that tiara. And I stopped working on this for a while to try and figure out what a good, just sort of think about what a good placement and design would be for the enclosure. And I think I've resolved just to make an enclosure for the PCB itself, and then the things that hold it in place can just be, honestly, it sticks in place really well just on its own. So I think that I can just support and reinforce the wire connections and sort of use those to hold it in place. And then have basically just a tiny enclosure that goes around the PCB itself and makes it look a little bit cooler and maybe protects it and makes it a little bit more comfortable. So we're going to do that. And let's see. I'm going to pull my reference design into another window so that I can sort of flip back and forth between the two. And here I'm working, oh yeah, this is what I used to mill the PCBs, both in the old version, and you can see how I did that with Adobe Capture, and in the new one. I used a PCB online design tool called Patcher.io and the Bantam PCB mill. You can see how the whole thing kind of goes together here. All right, so that's what we're working with. And now I'm going to try and convert this into an encoder. All right, cool. David Choi says, working on your Particle 101 workshop. I plan on using it for a remote camera system for a DSLR still camera. Awesome. Dave says, that, oh. Thank you, Dave. Turns out my microphone fell off. There we go. Sorry about that. But I appreciate the heads up. All right, cool. Now our audio is in place. We've got our PCB. We've done the intro, and we've got Onshape pulled up. This is a browser-based PCB design CAD tool, computer-aided design tool. And so what I like about this one is it allows us to do parametric design really easily, and I can access those designs from anywhere. Must have been when I was messing around with these wires earlier that the microphone fell off. So the first thing I'm going to do is make the approximate shape of this. And what I've actually done a second ago is I created a sketch. Oh, no, I haven't done that yet. Okay, so I reoriented my view so that I'm looking at one of the three planes here. We've got the front, side plane, and top and bottom plane. So I'm going to look at the front again. All right, I'm going to create a sketch on here and basically create an outline of this object so that I can then extend it out, and then I can apply design elements on top of that, and it'll look really nice. Unfortunately, I don't actually have access to a good 3D printer right now, but so we're going to start by doing this. This is sort of vaguely the shape. It's not to scale, and what I'm going to do is mirror that across the center line. So now we have a symmetrical object, and now I'm going to use the dimension tool to set the lengths of these lines. And I have here, I know that if I go into Patcher and stuff, I can find the exact lengths of these dimensions of these lines, but I'd rather just go, I'm pretty confident going from real life with a little ruler. I've got my Evil Mad Scientist PCB ruler. I love this thing so much. It's got inches on one side and centimeters and millimeters on the other, and the marks are on both sides, and it's just lovely. I use it for everything. So this is about 30 millimeters on the top, along the top here. So 30. And then the other side of it is, I think it's about 42 millimeters. Okay. Or is it 43? Let's see. 42 and a half. Okay. 42.5. All right. And that should be this approximate shape. Because with those side lengths, there's basically only one set of angles that will produce those particular side lengths and still have them meet up. So I believe that is about accurate. So this is our PCB. Now I want to know, as you saw before a second ago, I've mounted these LEDs. Oh no, not on Instagram. Stay here. Well, whatever. You can see that I've mounted these LEDs on their sides. They're regular surface mount LEDs. You can get side-mounted ones that shine to the side. However, these are not those. They're regular LEDs because I didn't want to, well, I wanted to have ones that would fit my design constraints, so voltage-wise, frequency-wise and stuff, and it was easiest to source regular top-shining LEDs. So I've just soldered them on their sides. What I need to do is figure out how thick the entire assembly is with that. So I'm going to do that. And I've found that I've done enough 3D modeling that I'm able to kind of eyeball and have a decent, so that's about 3 millimeters. Okay. I have a pretty decent idea of how big things are. 3 millimeters, cool. So I'm going to extrude this and make it 3 millimeters deep. And I'm also going to write that down. So that's, I generally, when I'm modeling something, I have the sketch open, I have my ruler, I have my object, if it's an enclosure, and I have a piece of paper where I'm diagramming out what the dimensions of the thing are. So I'm going to write this down. That's 30 by 42.5. And then we also have it 3 millimeters thick. And cool. The nice thing about this is that I can also tell really easily if I just click on this point and then that point. In the bottom right, you can sort of see down at the extreme bottom right corner for you, it says distance is 38.403 millimeters. And that makes it really easy to measure the distance between things. So now we have that. This is the shape, basically, of our PCB. So I'm actually going to remove that extrude and use this sketch as the base of my enclosure. So what I want to do is create lines that are parallel to those ones. And the thing is that I want to have them be a specific distance away from the other ones. So let's make that let's make that 2 millimeters. And that's so that I will have a how to do this actually. This is always a question. Let's make this first 1.5. I've found that when you're doing an enclosure, what works for me is to have a 0.5 millimeter gap between the object and its enclosure. Any two things that are supposed to touch, having a 0.5 millimeter gap between them is really helpful. So I'm just going to do that same thing again. Make sure it's parallel. And I'm doing that by just touching the other line with this one. And you see how it highlights orange? And then I get these little, it sort of snaps to it and becomes an orange dotted line. And sometimes it will try and, let's see, make sure that's parallel. There we go. And snap out at the corner here to the other, well, you know what, I could have probably snapped it to the, it'll sometimes try and snap to other dimensions. And that can be annoying because it constrains what you can do later. So here, for example, I want to have complete control. So 1.5 millimeters here. This is going to be the thickness of our enclosure. 1.5. And if this had snapped to other dimensions, sometimes it won't let you drag them around or redimension them because they're already constrained by those other connections to associations with other parts of the sketch. All right, so we're going to mirror these again. Select the mirror line, which is the central axis here. And I'm going to mirror both of these lines across there. Sort of in the opposite way than we did before. That's probably bad practice, but oh well. And what I can do now is I can extrude from both sides of this sketch. So on one side, I'm going to extrude, I'm going to go to, let's see, yeah. On the front side, I'm going to extrude all three of these spaces here. You can see that there's 3 spaces that have been created by this sketch. And I'm going to select all 3 and extrude them out, let's say 1.5 millimeters. And this is going to become the front or the outside of our enclosure, shaped like that, a little bit bigger than the original. And now I can look at this sketch again from the back and extrude just these 2 spaces. There's other ways to do this as well. So I'm going to extrude this out in the opposite direction. Let's say 2 millimeters. No, wait, it's got to be at least 3 millimeters deep, right? So we've already got the front surface, and that's 1.5 millimeters thick. That's going to be the front of the enclosure, the outside part. And I'm going to extend this sort of, these walls that'll go around the PCB. They have to go at least 3 millimeters, remember, because that's the thickness of our PCB assembly. And I'm going to be putting more stuff on, like hot glue or whatever, to protect those. LED attachments, as well as the wires. So I'm going to extend this out 5 millimeters, actually. That gives us 3 millimeters for the actual device, plus 2 millimeters of wiggle room. That's probably a bit much, but I'm fine with it. Cool. So now we have this very basic enclosure. And in some applications, what you can do is I could have just extruded a solid block, like this entire thing. In fact, let's try that. I'm going to suppress this. I probably shouldn't go into this much detail right now, but I'm going to do it anyway. So say that I want like I wanted 5 millimeters thick. I could select this back face and say shell, and then I can just tell it that I want the shell to be 1.5 millimeters thick, and you get the same kind of result. In fact, that might actually be a better way to do it. And what that means is that we've extruded at 5 millimeters. We have a 1.5 millimeter shell. That gives us 3.5 millimeters of space inside here. So that's two different ways of doing the same thing. The reason I did it the other way to start with is because sometimes if you have even what seems like a really simple design for the outer shell, it doesn't want to let you do the shell. It just gives you an error. And so this is sort of a more error-free way of doing that. But the shell function is really nice if you have a chance to use it and it doesn't get mad at you. Maybe I should just stick with that, actually. I'm going to delete this other extrude. I'm going to extrude this one out a little further to start with. Let's call it, what were we saying? We want it to be 1.5 millimeters thick. And then we want 5 millimeters on the inside. So that means 6.5 millimeters extrusion to start with. Okay. So now if I measure this in the bottom right, you can see that the length is 5 millimeters. In the absolute bottom right, it says length is 5 millimeters. And that means that this is a space 5 millimeters deep in the inside of the enclosure. It's the exact same thing as we had before, just done with a different technique. All right. So now, oh, the pressure's on because David's watching this. David's like an expert in 3D printing, but it's cool. You can go watch his videos if you want to see how David does it. I'm going to do it my way. So we have this. And one thing I want to do is make a way for the wires to come out along the sides. And so I'm going to go back to my sketch. And actually, I don't need these inside lines anymore, but I'm going to use them. I'm going to make a rectangle coming out along here. And how thick is my wire? Let's find that out. I'm going to make this point and this line coincide. I can use this button up here for that. Coincident. Or I could just hit I guess. I'm going to mirror that across the center line. So here we have our center line. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, the extrusion didn't like us. So I have to retell it which parts I actually wanted to extrude, which includes, you know, how do I actually want to do this? No, yeah, see, this is where the original version was easier, because I don't have to worry about how the shell is going to respond. I'm going to go back to my original way of doing this without the shell, because I hate that. Okay, so we're going to extrude it all in one direction, 5 millimeters, or no, 1.5 millimeters. This is our front piece. Okay, and then we get our back piece. And what I'm going to do now is select these guys and these guys. Everything except for those rectangles. Hey, select. There we go. And extrude those out backwards. 5 millimeters. We're getting a lot of review in this one. But here you see how I've easily created a front part, and then a back part, and we've got these channels for the wires to run through. What I could do actually, I could try actually and fill in those gaps so that it creates a little hole here instead. That could be nice. But I'm not going to do it right now. For now, we're going to focus on the front design. So we have this, and I have my Wonder Woman reference, and I'm going to take a look at how that shows up. Okay, so we've got what? We've got these overlapping pieces. I'm going to... We've got a star in the middle. We've got some, like a sort of flat field. We've got these sort of V lines coming in. We've got another sort of arc at the top, and then we've got the star in the middle. Okay. And how does it look like that star is in relation to the other pieces? It looks like it's kind of beneath that top little arc. Okay. So to me, it looks like I wonder if there's a way for me to mark this up for you. But it looks like this top part and the outer parts of the bottom are the bottom layer. The next layer is these parts that go and like form the base of the star underneath the star. The third layer is this layer that goes like this and still sits beneath the star, but on top of that second layer. And then the final top layer is the one that comes along the top and goes down on over everything. And then the star is kind of on top of that or at the same level with it. So we're going to model those in order. Actually, yeah. So what I'm going to do, oops, I'm going to create a sketch on top of this plane. It's a new sketch. Thump. And I'm just going to try and figure out what I think those dimensions are. And I'm sure someone's already done this. In fact, I think maybe the Broken Nerd did a, let's see, 3D model. Tiara. Someone's done this already. Oh, it might have been this person, Desktop Makes. Yes, I think it was them. And see, this has a slightly, not that mine is going to be perfect, but I think that they were going off a different model or something. Theirs is a little bit different. They've got these curved, swoopy lines. It might be from a different movie or something. And yeah, there's a pretty cool video on how they did that. So if you want to see someone else building a similar thing in Fusion 360 in 5 minutes, psh, well, go watching that if you want to see it done in 5 minutes in Fusion 360, but I'm going to do it in this because I want to make it myself. So 5 minutes? Are you joking? All right. Maybe they accelerated it and like played it at double speed or something. Anyway, so I'm going to start with the top parts. Yeah. And sort of estimate these angles. So it comes out above the top of the diamond shape. It's about even with the top point of the diamond shape. And then it intersects with the sides and goes down to the bottom point. It's a few millimeters away. I would say that the top part of it lands about maybe a third of the way along. Okay, so I'm going to drag this out so that it becomes aligned with the top corner there. I'm going to do this. Doop. There's going to be lots of mirroring here. And then I'm going to, well, let's see. It doesn't go all the way to the top again. It's sort of a little bit lower because there's this thickness we have to account for. Is it even with the outer corner? It does not seem to be even with the outer corner. It seems to be even with the side of the tiara, though. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to put it there. And let's see, to make this into an actual piece. Does it come out flat? No, it comes out a little bit angled. Okay. But I think I'll make it flat because this isn't going to be an entire tiara. It's just going to be a little sort of diamond shape. But what I do want to do is have it intersect with this other line that's coming off of the side of the tiara. And it looks like it doesn't really want to do that. So what I'm going to do is take this and extend it out here. There we go. And now I'm going to take this and pull it out so that they're coincident. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So that's our first piece. I'm going to mirror that. I'm going to do this kind of backwards, I guess. So now we have that twice. I'm going to select this part and that part and that and that, and I'm going to extend them out or extrude them out. How thick do we think this is? I think each layer is about 1 millimeter thick. That's going to be a huge glob of stuff, though. Let's make them 0.5 millimeters per layer. So we have the back layer, which is 0, 1 layer, 2 layer. This is the third and top layer. So I'm going to make this 3 times 0.5 high, which is 4.5 millimeters. Oh, wait, no, 1.5 millimeters. Why don't you like me? Why are you angry? It doesn't like it for some reason. Come on. Nope, it doesn't like that at all. Do you like this one? That's so strange. Oh, it must be about how they intersect, maybe. This is always a strange... Are those actually intersecting? Let's find out. They should be. But it's very hard to tell. Oh, you know what? Maybe these need to be connected. I doubt that'll solve the problem, but who knows? Maybe it will. Come on. No, why do you hate me? Ah, that's so frustrating. Well, let's start with, oh no, don't delete that. Let's start by just making this come out to here, and I'm going to make it parallel with the other line. Okay. And I'm going to delete the constraints on this one and align it with there. Okay, cool. Now that's kind of messed with my mirroring, but that's good. Okay, so now let's try extruding this. Oh no, why don't you like those center lines? That's so strange. What did they ever do to you? Well, I guess I'll delete them and try again. Oh no, don't delete my sketch. Thrill a minute. Okay, let's try this once more in the simplest possible way. Just gonna make a line, make another line, okay? Are we happy? Please tell me we're happy. Yes! No! Why doesn't it like it? I think it's something to do with these things overlapping at the point. Oh, they don't actually do that anyway. They have some thickness at the bottom. So maybe that will solve our problems. If I delete these lines, and instead of making them intersect at the bottom, I start a little ways up from the bottom and try to make it one whole shape. As you can see, yes, there we go. Sweet. So we decided that it was going to be 0.5 millimeters per layer, so that's 1.5 millimeters. Great. That's our top layer. Now we're going to do the next layer down. That's going to be this bottom. Can I zoom here? There we go. That's going to be this part that the lower stripe that comes in from the sides. And it seems to sort of turn into the field for that star. It's a little hard to tell. I think it's the next layer down. Okay, so it basically mirrors the top part of the diamond, although it's got a slightly different angle, and then it comes out at the bottoms at the same thickness. That's pretty easy. Okay, so we're going to go back to our sketch. We're going to come down from the top and make a parallel line intersecting with there. Then I'm going to continue that line. I'm going to try and make it, yes, good. Parallel, and I'm just going to make it go out to the edge there. And then I'm going to do the same thing again. A little ways down from that. Make it parallel. You can see those dotted lines are sort of indicating that we're still parallel. And we're still parallel, and it's intersecting. Beautiful. Okay. I'm going to mirror that across the center line. I really like working with sketches for 3D printing. I think that it makes my life so much easier. Okay, this time we're not going to take... Show me the sketch. There we go. This might be easier to do from inside the sketch, actually. Okay, so we've got this region, this region, this region, this region, and that region. And that's what we're going to extrude up. Oh, I don't need to do these ones because they're already part of the other extrusion. That's probably why I was messing up. All right, so now we're going to make this one 1 millimeter high because that's 2.5 millimeter high layers. I don't know why the center part is deciding to be... Oh, no. I see. You thought that you wanted me... Sometimes when you go back and modify the sketch, it... if you've extruded something after that, it will think that you want it to update what you've extruded. And so it just added that new region into my old extrusion. But I didn't want that. So here we go. This is sort of coming along. And I'm going to do one more layer. And that's just sort of a small... I'm going to make these side bits on the top. And I'm also going to extrude the central field. So this, and then I'm also going to make those little side parts at the top. Okay, so that's pretty easy. All I have to do is come along here. Is it the same height as the other one? Yeah, okay, cool. Here, I'm going to call it there. I'm going to make it parallel to this other side piece. There we go. Is that correct? Should it be parallel? It should be parallel. Awesome. It should be a little thinner, though. Technically, it shouldn't be quite parallel. It should angle in a little bit. So I'm going to delete that, actually. I'm going to make this a little bit less thick. And I'm going to... Yeah, okay, cool. Make it just... That looks nice. It doesn't have to be extremely, like, perfectly true to the original. There's some artistic license allowed here. So mirror line, mirror, mirror. Okay. And then we're going to hit escape. We're going to select these regions, which haven't already been extruded at all. And I'm going to extrude those out 0.5 millimeters. The default is 25 millimeters. I don't know why. Cool. So now we've got this kind of 4-layered design. We've got the outer layer here, the next layer down, the next layer down, and then the base. The last thing I want to do is, oh yeah, and the wires come out here. So we're pretty far along. One thing that could be cool would be to make it kind of curve a little bit by having it bend along this center line, but I don't think that's going to be possible in a short amount of time. So instead, what I'm going to do is focus on this star in the center, and I think then we'll be done. Plus, this stream is getting a little bit long, and the light is dying. Oh, let me turn up some light here. There, now I'm not just hiding out in the dark. Cool. Get some water. It's incredible. It's 8 p.m. and it's still light here. I love it. All right. So now, yeah, we want to do this star. Okay. So it's one. Ooh, interesting. That's actually 2 levels there. So we've got the outer level that's approximately even with our first outer extrusion layer. And then we've got a second recessed layer. So I'm going to start with and it goes to the top of this part. So I might, it would definitely be easier if I started a new sketch here. Can I do that and have it be a separate one? The thing is that the more intersecting lines we have here, the more complex it gets. But that's fine. So yeah, they're pretty thin rays. They go from the top to the bottom, and then they go sort of at 45-degree angles. Yeah, not quite 45. So it goes from here. And where's the center? It's about the same thickness as that first stripe here. So like we go this far down and then we get another length down, and that's about where the center of that doesn't make sense. Does it? Oh, it kind of does. All right. No, it's a little bit thicker than that. There we go. Okay. I'm going to make that a construction line. And that means that it doesn't really figure in actually constructing things. It's sort of a commented out type of feature. Are those lines parallel? No, they're a little bit up compared to this stripe on the crown. So let's move this upward a little bit. Cool, that looks nice. And you might have seen this V twitch a little bit. And that's because I haven't got constraints on any of these because they're just stylistic. So it doesn't have to be really precise in any particular dimension. And so they're free to kind of move around as I design this and pull things from one place to another. However, these side arms should be only about as long as the top arm. So I'm going to do that. Should be a shallower angle. Yeah. There we go. And now I'm going to make this be next to the same point that we have on the top corner. There we go. And make it connect at the bottom here. Where exactly does it connect? Okay, right at the point there. Good. Now I'm going to mirror this across the center line. Cool. So that's our first star. And this may again mess with our previous extrusions. Yep. So let's take a look at what those are. Here we go. I want this. Show my sketch. To include that. Oh no! It's getting mad because of the points again. That's so obnoxious. Well, how can I do this without having points? Maybe it's the intersection of 4 points that it doesn't like, because that was what was happening before. So if I just offset this slightly, if I just say these don't have to intersect. What I'm doing here is I'm deleting constraints that are placed upon each object. So like these points here. I'm just going to make it so that they don't quite intersect. And I'm going to see if that fixes the problem. Wait, why did those other lines go away? That's so strange. Yeah. I want these two to be concentric. Oh my goodness. Whoops. I hit the wrong button. Concentric. Oh no! I don't want it to collapse. That means I have to move this one up a little bit. Okay, now we're going to make those concentric. Come on. No! What if I make these two concentric? Okay, close enough. And now I probably have to do that at the bottom as well. So I'm going to delete these constraints, making them all connect to each other. I'm going to move one of these down. I'm going to make these two concentric. Come on. Okay, close enough. That should be... Hopefully that's enough so that the extrusion won't hate me. I do still have to go back and fix one of these. It wants to hide your sketch whenever you're not using it because I think because it just wants everything to be clear. So you have to click this little eyeball to bring it back. All right, so I'm going to extrude that central star and these two little points up here. Cool. And I think we decided that that should be 1.5 deep because it's on the same level. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, you really don't like me. Oh, it's because of this intersection over here. Welp. I don't know why it's doing that on one side and not on the other, but let's fix that. I'm going to do the same thing that I just did with the other part of the sketch, which is that I just make it so that it doesn't quite touch because it seems to hate that for some reason. All right, so now those aren't connected anymore. I'm going to move this, and I'm going to move this other one so that they snap together. And that is mirrored on the other side, so that one's already disconnected. Now let's try that again. On the one hand, I always wish for like a smooth tutorial video, and on the other hand, doing this live, I feel like you get to see a lot of the problem-solving process. Oh, wait, why did you go in that direction? That's strange. Yes, come outward, please. Oh, I see. Duh. It's got to be 1.5 millimeters that it goes. I inverted the direction. There we go. Okay, there we are. So that's our first level of the star. Looks pretty good. And we have one more thing to do, which is these little rays that are coming off the center, and those just only exist within this little field. Okay, cool. And it looks like they go to the center. No, they don't quite go to the center of those lines. They do kind of do that on the bottom, though, so. Oh, yeah. Now I have to make sure that none of my lines touch other lines and stuff. Oh, it's so annoying. It's fine, though. Okay. I want to make some more construction lines because that will make it easier to see where I'm going. And these go kind of a little bit to the inside. And then they definitely go from the center here to, oh, I think that's trying to give me a 90-degree angle. I'll roll with it. Cool. I'm going to mirror those. Oh, you know what? I don't have to mirror the construction lines. I only have to mirror the actual lines I'm going to make. So here we go. I'm going to make this cute little ray. And how thick do they want to be? The same thickness as the other ones? A little bit thinner. Well, yeah. Okay. And now I'm going to do some weird stuff. And I'm going to mirror these. I'm going to mirror this across there. And now I have to make it so that it intersects with that line because uh-oh, no, don't do that. There we go. Because it's mirrored, but I can still edit the final result of the mirroring. And if I just mirrored this line exactly, it wouldn't line up with this other line over here because they're not exactly in the same place. Whoa, whoa, what happened there? Don't like that. Okay, mirror it. Okay. Now I want to... I think that was a side effect of trying to make those lines, like force those lines to be... Nope. It really doesn't like that. Oh, I see. Okay, so I'm going to put it back, and now I'm going, now that I've made this line using the mirror function, I'm going to delete the mirroring parameter so that it no longer affects the other one, all right? Now we're just going to, oh, no, I didn't want you to alter that. At least it's not as extreme anymore. I just remembered I can't have them intersect with the other lines. So many constraints. All right, so I'm going to delete the other lines I just made. I'm going to remove this having to intersect with that line. I'm going to make it just a little bit shorter. Why are there two? There we go. And then this one too. Cannot intersect with that other one or my extrusion is going to hate me. There we go. All right. Now let's make some little lines. I'm just going to give up on the mirroring entirely and just make this look kind of good according to eyeballing it. Because it doesn't have to be that precise. If you're trying to actually make a product or have it be screen accurate down to the tiniest little detail, then that's one thing. But just like this person did, wherever they were, the person who designed their own one, Desktop Makes, just like they did. This isn't exactly like the original design, and mine does not have to be either. So here we are. We're going to be approximate, and they're kind of like skinny, all right. Oh no, don't do that. I'm going to put the lines where they go, and then I'm going to let them be. But let's do this. Another line. Make that roughly equal. And this is a small enough design that it doesn't really show if anything's like only a tiny amount off. Okay, so now what we can do is mirror these across the center line. Like so. Nice. So we're going to select these regions and try to extrude them again. This region, that region, this region, and that region. And we're going to extrude them 1 millimeter because it's the next layer down from the top one. Yes, it doesn't hate me. However, there's a previous extrusion that's decided that it will hate me now. What's the problem, Extrude 5? Oh, that intersection is bothering you? You're so weird. What even is Extrude 5? Oh, it's that base field, huh? Well, what if I remove these? What if I make it after the other parts? Haha! Haha! All I did with this was change. Oh, you know what? There. Don't want you to extrude those star pieces at all. Don't extrude them. Just extrude the pieces I want. Stop extruding that one. Stop it. I'm going to delete everything. Oh, no. Well, you know what? It looks good now. It looks good now. And nothing's errored out. And I like it. We've got our different layers. We've got our different pieces of the star. We've got, if you look at it like this, this is what our final piece would look like. Cool. So that is how I model this device as an enclosure. I think it looks pretty okay. It could be more sort of curvaceous or whatever, but it's not. And it works as an enclosure for the device that I'm trying to make. And the way that I would see this attaching, well, you know what? It can't be like this. I forgot that the whole point of this project is that the light shines out through the sides, like so. So I can't have walls there. So I'm going to take those out. And let's see, what's the best time to do that actually is in the original sketch. Haha. I'm just going to put a line where those LEDs would be, which means that I need to find out where they are exactly. Where's my ruler? Gone. Here we go. So the LEDs start at the bottom and they reach approximately 20 millimeters in. I think if I have, let's say 25. Yeah. That gives them plenty of space to shine. Where exactly are my eyebrows and stuff? Yeah, so approximately, they only really need about 20 millimeters because that's sort of the bottom portion, but let's give it 25 just to make sure that the light can shine. So 25 millimeters from the end of that line, I'm going to put a little line. So let's put it across here, perpendicular to the edge. I made another mistake as well, actually. But first, let's dimension this. So from here to there, I want to be 25. There we go. That puts that line where I want it. Okay, now remember how I said that this was a gap? That means I don't want to extrude that area. This central part is the actual PCB size, and this outer part is the enclosure size, which means that that needs to be not extruded, this middle section. So we're going to go back and take a look at our extrusion and show the sketch. Somehow that's messing with our second sketch here, but basically I want to not include this region, not include that region. There we go. And I want to include, oh, I forgot to mirror the line. This line needs to be mirrored across the central axis. So let's go to the front. Find the central axis. Mirror the line. Okay, there we go. Now, let's go back to the extrusion on the back. We're going to deselect the gap. Oh, that's strange. I want to show my sketch. There we go. There we go. Somehow I'm getting a weird error situation. Let's see what happens if I allow that. Don't extrude the middle of this. Don't do it. I'm going to delete all of this. Okay, just extrude this part, and that part, and that part. That looks better. Great. And on the first extrusion, I also need to make sure that this is selected. Okay, that looks good as well. We wanted to make sure that we were extruding all of the top face. So all of that's covered on the front, which looks good, and also leaving the gaps in the back there. That also looks good. There's space for the wires, there's space for the light to come through, and yeah, that looks good. All right, so what I would do now is add some bracing on the top of the PCB, and that would give it a little bit more support. I would put hot glue over the LEDs. I need to fix some of the soldering first, and I also need to reinforce these wires. And yeah, David Choi says, would it work better if you use multiple sketches? Sometimes it would. I think if I hid the original sketch, that would actually solve my problems. I didn't think of that in the moment, but it's a great point. So on my next, if I were to do this again, I would probably have hidden. I think what he's talking about is when I was designing the front here, and getting mad about the lines intersecting and stuff, and how I was getting errors because of that. And probably what I could have done is hidden this second sketch and then done another one off of the same face, and then they wouldn't interfere with each other, and then I wouldn't have had those errors in the first place, and I wouldn't have had to go back and make sure these lines weren't touching, and everything would be beautiful. But I didn't think of that in the moment. But next time. Thanks, David. That's a great point. All right. Thank you all for watching. I hope this has been edifying. I can't wait to get to some place where I can print this. Actually, what I could do, if I were feeling really decadent, is get it printed in metal. Then it would be conductive, which I'd have to watch out for. And also it would be heavy, which could be a problem. But it could be done and it would look really nice. Another thing you can do is print it in a light plastic material and hack jack. There you go. And as I did with this 3D print back in the day, this was an April Fool's prank last year. We pretended like we had made a direct-to-brain tutorial delivery device based on the Matrix brain plugs. And this was a 3D print that I printed in blue, actually, and coated with this stuff called Rub and Buff, which is a metallic coating. It's a wax, a really soft wax that kind of feels like an oil paint, and you spread it on your 3D print. You sand your 3D print to get rid of the lines first, then you spread it on. And then if you want, after you sort of polish that with a paper towel or whatever, you can also add black paint in the wells in the deep parts of your print and then kind of wipe it off the higher parts so that you get this 3D/aged look, which really makes it look nice and makes the high parts pop out, like you can see here. So that's another option for making it look like metal. You can see here. Woo, yeah. Or you can just try and get it printed in metal or whatever. Or you can just leave it in whatever color you printed it, because it's your tiara. You can have whatever you want. All right. Yeah, thanks again for joining. Check out the tutorial. I think it's a really cool technology, and it's taking off now. Also, be sure to... Why are we at 300% size? Also, be sure to submit your own ideas for the Hacking Menopause contest. You can actually find that both in the link in the description below, but also in the story here. Just click there, Hacking Menopause, or you can go to hackster.io/contests. And it's the third one down. You have until May 12th to submit your projects. And the thing here is that you probably, if you do anything with health, biotech, that kind of stuff, you probably might already have something that applies to this contest. So all you'd have to do is write a tutorial and you could win some really cool prizes. I think it's a really cool contest and I'm excited to support it. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope this helped you come up with some ideas for 3D modeling and 3D printing and get a little bit familiar with the structure and usage of Onshape. Yeah. I'd love to see your submissions to the contest. Have a great rest of your Wednesday and hack on.